Nobody. Worthless. Broken. 3 words. In giant white letters on a 12-foot screen. In front of 250 people. At my little sister's wedding reception. And my dad, this man who coached Little League for years, who shook every hand at every town cookout like he was running for mayor. He looked at me from across that banquet hall, raised his glass and said, "Relax, honey. It's just a joke." My mom was already on her 3rd glass of wine. She didn't even flinch. She just swirled it around and watched me the way you watch a TV show you've already seen the ending of. No surprise. No concern. Just waiting to see if I'd cry. And my sister Cassidy, the bride, the woman in the $4,000 dress, she leaned into the microphone and said, "Don't feel too bad for her, y'all. She's used to being alone." The room laughed. Some people looked away. Some laughed harder. I didn't cry. I didn't storm out. I reached under the table, grabbed my phone, and typed one word to my best friend Damon. "Go." And just like that, the whole room went dead quiet. So quiet you could hear the ice cracking in my mother's glass. What happened next didn't just ruin a party. Tore apart 20 years of lies, destroyed my father's biggest business deal, and forced a family that had spent 2 decades pretending to be perfect to finally face what they actually were. I'm going to tell you every single detail. But before I do, if this story is already hitting close to home for you, please hit the like button right now and subscribe. Because what I'm about to share gets a whole lot bigger before it's over. And trust me, you do not want to miss what happens at the end. My name is Kara. I'm 38 years old. I live in Charlottesville, Virginia, with my 5-year-old daughter Lily. And this is my story. Let me take you back 5 weeks before that wedding. Tuesday night, late September. I was sitting at my drafting table in my apartment on the east side of Charlottesville, working on drawings for an old theater renovation downtown. Lily was already asleep in her room. My coffee had gone cold. My lower back hurt. Just a regular Tuesday night. My phone lit up. Unknown number. Virginia area code, but not Charlottesville. Somewhere smaller. Somewhere I hadn't thought about in years. Hargrove. I almost let it go to voicemail. Something made me pick it up. "Is this Kara Sutton?" A woman's voice. Calm and careful. "Yes," I said. "My name is Renata James. I'm a nurse at Blue Ridge Care Center in Hargrove. Your grandmother, Evelyn Sutton, asked me to call you." I put down my pencil. Grandma Evelyn. 86 years old. The only person in my whole family who ever made me feel like I actually belonged. When everyone else in that house treated me like a problem to solve, she treated me like a person worth knowing. She was the one light in a dark house, and I hadn't been allowed to see her in 2 years. Renata kept going. She said Grandma Evelyn was scheduled for knee surgery in 4 weeks. The surgery itself was straightforward enough, but at her age with her heart history, there were real risks. She had been asking for me. "There's one more thing," Renata said, lowering her voice. "Your father, Mr. Raymond Sutton, told your grandmother you're allowed to visit. But only if you go to your sister's wedding first. Of course. Raymond always put conditions on everything. Nothing in that man's world was ever free. And Miss Sutton?" Renata added. "Your grandmother wanted to warn you. She said they're planning something at the reception. Something about you. Her exact words were, 'Tell Kara to be ready. Don't let them blindside her.'" I looked at the wall above my desk. A framed award. Virginia Emerging Design Professional of the Year. 2 years ago. 20 years of silence from my family. And the first person to reach out wasn't my mom. Wasn't my dad. It was a nurse calling on behalf of a woman who hid my letters under her mattress so my father wouldn't find them. I sat there for a long time after I hung up. Then I got up and walked down the hall. I cracked Lily's door open. She was curled up under her elephant blanket, one arm wrapped around her stuffed giraffe, completely out. I stood in the doorway just watching her chest go up and down. She was the reason I couldn't fall apart. She was also, honestly, a big part of why I knew I had to go back. To understand what happened at that reception, I need to back up. About 20 years. I'm 16. Junior year of high school. Sitting at the kitchen table in my parents' house in Hargrove, Virginia, a small town tucked against the Blue Ridge Mountains about 2 hours west of Charlottesville. Kind of place where everybody knows your last name and your family's business and your daddy's net worth. My grandfather, Pop Earl, had passed away that summer. In his will, he left me 3 acres of land on the east edge of Hargrove. Rolling fields, a little creek in the back, a big old poplar tree you could see from the road. He called it Kara's Corner. He'd been saying since I was 8 years old that it was mine. When I turned 16, Grandma Evelyn co-signed the deed to make it official and legal. That land was mine. 2 years after that, my dad slid a paper across the kitchen table. Raymond Sutton. A big man. A property developer and builder. Big hands, big voice, the kind of man who walked into rooms like he already owned them. He pushed that paper toward me without looking up. Kara, sign this. It's a form to transfer the land back to Sutton Development. I need it for the Riverwalk project. The investors are already in. Just sign it. I looked at the paper. I looked at my mom, Diane, who was standing at the counter flipping through a home catalog. She didn't look up. She just turned a page. I looked back at my dad. That land is mine, I said. Pop gave it to me. Raymond's jaw got tight. And I'm your father. And I'm telling you to give it back. I didn't sign. 3 days later, the college savings account he'd been building since I was born, the one he used to show me as proof that my future mattered to him, was gone. Moved into Sutton Development LLC without a word to me. I found out from a letter in the mail from the school's billing office. 2 weeks after that, I came downstairs one morning and Raymond was standing in the front hall with his arms crossed. My duffel bag was already packed and sitting by the door. You made your choice, he said. Now go live with it. My little sister Cassidy was 14 years old. She was standing at the top of the stairs in her pajamas, looking down at me. She didn't say a word. She just watched. I walked out with that bag and $63 in my checking account. That same night, Raymond told the neighbors I'd dropped out of school and run off with some guy. Told people I broke my mother's heart. Said it in that quiet, sad voice of his, the one that made people shake their heads and say, that poor family. Not a word of it was true. But in Hargrove, Raymond's word was good as law. Here's what I actually did. After that door shut behind me, I slept in my car for 3 weeks. A beat-up 2004 Civic with a broken heater. September nights in the Blue Ridge are cold. I learned that fast. I got a dishwashing job at a breakfast diner outside Waynesboro. Picked up a second waitressing shift at a barbecue place down the road. Saved enough to rent a room in a shared house in Staunton with 4 other people. Got my GED at 19 while still working 2 jobs. 20, I enrolled at Blue Ridge Community College in Weyers Cave on a government grant. Transferred to the University of Virginia in Charlottesville at 22 on a scholarship based on financial need. I studied architecture because I liked the idea of building things that couldn't be signed away from you. Things made to last longer than the people who created them. I graduated at 24. Nobody came. I walked across that stage alone in Charlottesville, got my diploma, shook the dean's hand, went back to my apartment, and ate leftover Chinese food on the floor. Cried once. Then I stopped and kept moving. 25, I got my first real architecture job at a small firm down in Roanoke. 27, I moved back to Charlottesville to work at a bigger company called Mercer Caldwell Associates. I worked my way up year by year. I now lead the historic restoration side of the business. Old theaters, old courthouses, old schoolhouses, buildings that were built to mean something and deserve to be saved. My professional name is C.E. Sutton. I used to have it hyphenated with my ex-husband's last name, Bradley Holt. We got married when I was 28. I thought he was steady and serious. He was, but not in a good way. He was controlling. Kept close track of my money, my phone calls, my friends. A quieter version of my dad. I left him when I was 30. I kept part of his name for a few years because people in the architecture world already knew it. Once I was solid enough on my own, I dropped it. Now I need to tell you about the hardest part of my story. When I was 29, a doctor sat me down and told me I most likely could not carry a baby. My body just wasn't going to work that way. I found out alone in a clinic waiting room with lights so bright they hurt your eyes. I had nobody to call. I sat with it the way I'd sat with every hard thing in my adult life, one breath at a time by myself. For a while I figured that was just how it was going to be. Work. My apartment. My drafting table by the window. And honestly, I was okay with that. I really was. But something shifted in me about a year later. I started reading about adoption. Not all at once, slowly at first, then more and more. Took about a year of thinking and crying in my car and praying and researching before I was sure. By the time I was 31, I had made up my mind. I went through the whole adoption process by myself. The home visits. The background checks. Paperwork spread across my kitchen table every weekend. The waiting, and the waiting is the hardest part. You don't know when. You don't know who. You just stay ready and you trust that the right moment is coming and you try not to lose your mind in the meantime. Then one Tuesday afternoon at the end of March, my caseworker called. There was a baby girl, 18 months old. She was healthy. She was in foster care in Richmond. Her file had a placeholder name. They let the adoptive parent choose the real one. Could I come Thursday? I was sitting in my car in the Mercer Caldwell parking lot when that call came. I sat there for about 30 seconds. Then I said yes, hung up, and cried so hard my whole body shook. The happy kind of crying. Kind that surprises you because it comes from somewhere deeper than you knew you had. Thursday came. I drove to Richmond. I walked into that room. The foster mom put this tiny little girl with big dark eyes and barely any hair into my arms. She looked at me for just a second. Then she wrapped both her little hands around my thumb and held on tight. That was it. That was the whole answer to every question I'd ever had about whether I was going to be okay. I named her Lily. She has been talking since the day she figured out how. She loves dinosaurs the way most people love breathing, deeply and constantly and without any apologies whatsoever. She laughs like everything is the funniest thing she's ever heard. She calls me Mama and she means it with everything she has. My daughter is the best thing I have ever done in my life. It's not even close. Now here's what makes those cruel labels on that screen at the reception even worse. My own family knew about my fertility situation. My ex-husband Bradley had stayed friendly with my family after our divorce. He always liked having information to hand out. So they knew I'd been told I probably couldn't have children naturally. But they never once called to check on me. Not a single word. Not a card. Nothing. And they never asked about Lily. Not one time. Raymond didn't call when I brought her home. Diane didn't send a card. Cassidy sent one emoji, a little yellow baby face, and then nothing after that, like she'd already moved on. They put "can't have kids" on that screen. While my daughter was asleep at home. Now if you are still watching this right now, I need you to do something. Drop a comment below and tell me, where are you watching from? Your city, your country, anything. 'Cause what I'm about to tell you next is the part that changes everything. And I want to know who is here with me. The morning after Renata's call, I dropped Lily off at her preschool on Barracks Road, drove across town, and sat down with my coworker and closest friend, Damon Reed, at the office on the downtown mall. Damon is 39. He was in the Marines for 8 years in logistics and communications. He now manages projects at our firm. He is the kind of person who does not panic. about anything. When everything starts going sideways, he just gets quieter and more focused. I have never met anyone like him. I told him everything. The nurse's call. The ultimatum from my dad. The warning from Grandma Evelyn. The 5 weeks I'd spent watching this whole thing coming at me and not knowing what to do about it. When I finished, he leaned back and said, "You're going." I know. But you're going with a plan. Not just hope. I know. He didn't tell me it would all be fine. He's not that kind of person. He just said, "Okay, let's figure out how you walk into that room." "And Lily?" I asked. "I can't bring her into all of this. My sister Maya will take her for the weekend. Lily loves Maya. It's already figured out." He said it like he'd been planning it before I even walked in. That is who Damon is. He doesn't wait to be asked. That night, I booked a room at the Hargrove Inn for the wedding weekend. I got out the green dress I'd bought myself in the summer. Fitted, clean, the kind of thing you wear when you mean business without needing to announce it. Definitely not the dress I knew my mother was going to try to push on me. The whole drive home, I kept thinking about Lily. About how my whole family had never once actually asked about her. About how they had the nerve to call me alone while my little girl was home drawing dinosaurs at the kitchen table. Damon said go with a plan. So I started making one. 3 weeks before the wedding, Raymond said I had to come to a family dinner first. That was the deal for getting my name back on the approved visitor list at Blue Ridge Care Center. I set Lily up for dinner at her friend Abby's house and made the 2-hour drive west to Hargrove on a Wednesday evening. The house looked exactly the same. Brick, neat lawn, American flag by the front door. Everything about it was built to look solid and respectable. It almost worked if you didn't know better. Nobody hugged me at the door. My mom Diane looked me up and down. "You look tired. Are you sleeping okay?" She said it the way people ask things they don't actually want answered. Raymond was at the head of the table. Same chair, same posture, same flat look on his face like the last 20 years hadn't happened. "What are you doing with yourself these days?" he asked. "Architecture. Senior level." "Oh, drawing up house plans," he said. I picked up my fork. I didn't bother correcting him. Cassidy came in 20 minutes late, smelling like she'd bathed in perfume. 5-carat ring. Big entrance. Talked about the wedding venue like she was hosting her own TV show. She pulled me into the hallway before dessert. "I need you to keep a low profile at the reception," she said. "Blake's family is old money and they notice every little thing. Don't make it weird." She tilted her head in that way she had. Fake concern, full performance. "Oh, and how's that little girl of yours? The one you adopted?" Something sharp moved through my chest. That little girl. Like Lily was some kid I'd found on the side of the road. "Lily is great," I said. "She's 5 now. Smart, funny, and she never stops talking." Cassidy nodded like she was being polite about something that didn't really interest her. "Cute. Anyway, sit where Dad tells you. Keep it low-key. Don't make things weird." I didn't say anything. She smiled. "Some people just aren't cut out for big rooms. That's okay." On my way out, my mom pushed a garment bag into my arms. Inside was a beige dress. Loose, baggy, and about 2 sizes too big. "This will look perfect on you," she said. Raymond caught me at the door. The Whitfields have been running this county for 3 generations. Don't bring up your personal life, your work, or anything that could make things complicated. One wrong word and this 2-year deal I've been building falls apart. I drove back to the highway. And then a name hit me. Whitfield. I knew that name. Not from Cassidy's ring. Not from Raymond's business talk. I knew it from a project folder on my desk back in Charlottesville. The office the next morning, I pulled up my client files. Whitfield Historical Preservation Trust. There it was. Our firm had been hired 6 months ago to restore an old cotton exchange building in Hargrove, turning it into a community arts center and event hall. Trust was paying for the whole project. The woman who chose our firm, who had looked at 6 other proposals and picked ours, was Margaret Whitfield, head of the trust. Blake Whitfield's mother. My sister's future mother-in-law. We had probably 60 emails between us. 3 video calls. She knew my work, my ideas, my project timeline. She had personally approved the second round of drawings. She knew C.E. Sutton. She had never seen my face. We had never been in the same room. I sat with that information for a while. I want to be straight with you, I did not plan to use that connection. I'm not my father. I don't use people as tools. But I kept it in the back of my mind the same way you keep the fire exit in mind when you walk into a building. You hope you never need it. You're glad you know where it is. That same evening, Damon called. So I looked into the reception venue. How far did you look? Far enough, said Hargrove Country Club. They hired a local AV company called Soundstage Events to run the projector and sound. Full slideshow, toasts, the whole thing. A pause. They're short on staff. Just posted on Indeed looking for a freelance tech for the night. Silence on my end. I already applied, he said. They called me back within 2 hours. They want me Thursday to walk through the setup. Damon, you're walking into a room where your family has already set a trap. I'm just making sure you have a way out of it. By that Thursday, Damon Reed was officially on the event staff for the Sutton Whitfield wedding reception. He would have full access to the projector, both USB ports, and the main soundboard. That same week, I put together a simple slideshow. 6 slides. No drama, no insults. Just the truth. Slide 1, my graduation photo. Me alone in front of the UVA seal, cap and gown, diploma in hand. Caption: nobody came to my graduation. I went anyway. Slide 2, my architecture license on my office wall. Licensed architect, Commonwealth of Virginia. Slide 3, me on a job site in Charlottesville, hard hat on, blueprints in hand, a courthouse being rebuilt in the background. Senior architect, Mercer Caldwell Associates, Charlottesville, Virginia. Slide 4, my award plaque. Virginia Emerging Design Professional of the Year. Slide 5, white text on a black screen. You called me a dropout. I have a degree. You called me broke. I own my home. You called me a failure. I design buildings that outlast all of us. Slide 6, added a few nights later. The measure of a family isn't how they treat the one they're proud of. It's how they treat the one they gave up on. I saved everything to a thumb drive and gave it to Damon. You're not looking to start anything, he said. No. But if they do, then you finish it. 1 week before the wedding, Raymond held up his end of the deal. My name was back on the approved list at Blue Ridge. 30 minutes. Supervised. Diane would be with me. I dropped Lily at preschool, drove 2 hours west, and met my mom in the parking lot at Blue Ridge Care Center just outside Hargrove. Diane sat down in a chair in the hallway and started scrolling her phone. She did not come in. Grandma Evelyn's room was sunny and warm. She was smaller than I remembered. Her hand shook a little. But her eyes, sharp, dark, completely present, were the same as they'd always been. The same eyes that looked at me like I mattered back when nobody else in that house did. She grabbed both my hands the second I sat down. Let me look at you. She studied my face. You're doing good. I can see it. I'm doing good, Grandma. And my Lily? How is she doing? My throat got tight. She asked about Lily every single time. She'd been asking through letters for 4 years, letters that Renata helped her hide because my dad had someone at the front desk reporting back to him. Through those hidden letters, she knew Lily's name, her birthday, her favorite color, what made her laugh. She knew my daughter through a crack in a door my dad had tried to nail shut. She's perfect, I said. She just turned 5 in August. She's wild about dinosaurs right now. She asks me questions I don't even know how to answer. She has this laugh that sounds like, I don't know, like bells. She's just a really, really happy kid. Grandma Evelyn squeezed my hands. She sounds just like you at that age. Before this house wore you down, I had to look away for a second. Don't let them get in your head, she said, pressing one hand to her chest. Whatever they've got planned, let it roll right off. You know who you are. You know what you've built. Don't you let them take that from you. Then she reached under her mattress and pulled out a folded envelope. Renata had been keeping it hidden. My dad, apparently, was paying one of the staff to feed him information. Inside the envelope was a copy of a property deed. My name at the top. The 3 acres. Pop-Pop's land, Pop-Pop's creek, the old poplar tree. That land is still yours, she said, low and steady. Your dad never finished the transfer. He tried every trick he could come up with for years. None of them worked. That land is still in your name. I stared at the paper. For 20 years I had assumed he'd found some legal way around it. Some loophole. Men like Raymond always find loopholes. I had stopped thinking about that land a long time ago because I truly believed it was gone. It wasn't. He's been telling his business partners it belongs to Sutton Development, she whispered. Using it to borrow money. Putting it in his pitch materials like he owns it. He doesn't. He never did. A knock on the door. My mom's flat voice from the hallway. Time. I folded the envelope into my jacket pocket. I leaned down and kissed Grandma Evelyn on the forehead. Her skin was soft and smelled like lavender, the same lotion she'd had on her nightstand my entire life. That's my girl, she murmured. Now go show them what you're made of. I walked past my mom in the hallway. She was touching up her lipstick in the mirror. She didn't ask how Grandma Evelyn looked. She didn't ask anything. She just clicked her compact shut and said, Ready? I left Blue Ridge that day with 2 things. A blessing from the one person who had never stopped believing in me. And proof that my dad had been lying about a lot more than just me. 5 days before the wedding, I got a list of rules by text from Raymond. Sit at table 22 in the back left corner by the kitchen. Don't speak to the Whitfields unless they speak first. Don't mention my job, my personal life, or anything that could make things messy. If anyone asks what I do, say I work in support at a small design office. That same evening, Cassidy added me to a family group chat. Her, Raymond, Diane, and me. The first message was a preview of the wedding slideshow. I watched it load on my screen. The Sutton family, beautiful, happy, perfect. Baby photos of Cassidy. Cassidy and Raymond at a father-daughter dance. Cassidy at prom. Cassidy at her college graduation, surrounded by the whole family cheering in the stands. I was not in a single photo. Not one. Then the slides changed. Old photos of me. Stretched and filtered to look unflattering. Cartoon stickers slapped over my face. And then the labels. 1 per slide. Bold and centered. High school dropout. Divorced. Broke. Alone. Can't have kids. Cassidy's message underneath. Oh, okay, this is going to be so good. Don't be stressed, Kara, it's just family humor. My mom replied. Keep it classy, Cass. Not, this is wrong. Not, take it down. Not, what is the matter with you? Keep it classy. Like there's a classy way to put your own daughter's medical pain up on a screen in front of 250 strangers. Like the words can't have kids next to a photo of a woman who has a 5-year-old sleeping at home is just a harmless little joke. Raymond didn't respond at all. I took screenshots of all of it. Sent them to Damon without a word. Then I opened my laptop and looked at my slideshow for a while. Then I closed it. I walked down the hall to Lily's room. She'd fallen asleep with her dinosaur book open on her chest. I moved it to her nightstand, pulled her blanket up around her, sat on the edge of her bed in the dark for a long time. There is nothing left to say to people who have decided your private pain is their entertainment. But there is still something left to do. Quick pause right here, 'cause I need to ask you something personal before I go on. Have you ever been made to feel like the black sheep of your own family? Like no matter what you did or how far you came, they just kept you in a box they built for you a long time ago? If that is your experience, drop a number 1 in the comments right now. I read every single one. And stay right here because what happens next at this reception is exactly the reason I decided to tell this story. Wedding day. Last Saturday of October. Clear sky, cold air, the Blue Ridge Mountains showing orange and gold in the distance. I dropped Lily off at Damon's sister Maya's house at 7 in the morning. Lily was already best friends with Maya and ran straight inside without looking back the second that front door opened. I heard her start explaining why the Brachiosaurus was actually smarter than the T-Rex before the door even swung shut. I stood on the porch for 1 second and smiled. Then I got in my car and drove west. First Baptist Church of Hargrove. White columns. Packed parking lot. This was the social event of the county. Local business owners, town council members, real estate developers, country club regulars. And in the front row, the Whitfields. Margaret Whitfield. Silver hair, dark green blazer, the posture of someone who runs things and knows exactly how much power she has. Her husband Charles, quiet and steady beside her. Their son Blake at the altar. Honestly, he looked like he actually meant those vows. He had no idea what kind of family he'd just married into. I slid into the last pew. Nobody moved over. Nobody said anything. Raymond worked the whole center aisle like he was running for office. Handshakes everywhere, shoulder pats, laughing too loud at his own jokes. So proud of my baby girl. He meant Cassidy. He always meant Cassidy. My mom floated near the front in a white silk dress, leaning in to whisper something to a friend, then laughing that soft, practiced laugh. Both my girls came today. Even the difficult one. A glance toward the back pew. A small smile. I looked away. 2 rows ahead of me sat an older woman I didn't recognize. White hair cut close, reading glasses on a little beaded chain, a long navy dress. She looked at me once, just for a second, with an expression I couldn't quite figure out. I didn't think much of it at the time. Near the side door, Damon was crouched down running a microphone cable along the baseboard in his black soundstage polo. He looked up for half a second. The smallest nod. Everything is set. The ceremony was actually beautiful. Blake's voice cracked a little when he said his vows. That was real. You can't fake that. Cassidy said hers louder and longer and made it mostly about herself. But that's always been her. I sat in the last row the whole time. Like a ghost they'd invited on purpose just to haunt. The reception was at Hargrove Country Club. Crystal chandeliers. White tablecloths everywhere. A big 12-foot projection screen behind the head table. The whole place smelled like gardenias and money and that particular kind of fake warmth you get when 250 people are all performing for each other at the same time. Table 22. Back left corner. Right next to the kitchen door. Every time a server pushed through, I got a blast of noise in my back. Clanging dishes, someone calling out orders, the hiss of something on a hot grill. I was seated with 3 cousins from Diane's side who had clearly been told nothing about me, an older couple who spent the whole salad course talking about their cruise to the Bahamas, and a woman named Holly who leaned across during the appetizer and asked, "What do you do, Han?" "I'm an architect." "Oh, how fun." She turned to the man beside her and immediately started talking about remodeling her bathroom. Cassidy's maid of honor did a toast that went on for about 6 minutes and had basically a beginning, a middle, and an end. Then Cassidy took the microphone and thanked everyone in the room, her parents, the Whitfields, her sorority sisters, her wedding planner, her florist, her nail tech, and then looked toward the back of the room with that smile she saved for when. She was about to say something she knew would land. My sister Kara made it out tonight, which honestly is more than we were all sure about. A little laugh. A few people joined in, the nervous kind, the kind where you're not really sure if you're supposed to laugh but you do anyway. My mom appeared at my elbow. As always, her perfume arrived a few seconds before she did. "Don't drink more than 1 glass," she said under her breath. "Don't talk about yourself. And for goodness sake, at least try to look like you're having a nice time." I smiled. Not because she asked me to, because in about 15 minutes that slideshow was going to run. And I already knew exactly what was on it. The lights went down. Cassidy's maid of honor walked back to the microphone with a grin that told me she had rehearsed this all week. And now, a special presentation from the Sutton family. The screen flickered to life. Soft piano music came through the speakers. Baby Cassidy with a gap in her front teeth. Ballet recital, pink tutu. High school homecoming. Cassidy and Raymond fishing out on the Shenandoah River. The family on vacation at the Outer Banks, Diane in a big sun hat, Raymond with his arm around Cassidy, the ocean behind them. I was not in a single frame. Not one. The room cooed and clapped. Margaret smiled politely. Charles patted his son's shoulder. Then came the couple photos. Cassidy and Blake at a vineyard in the valley. At a UVA football game. Christmas dinner with the Whitfields. Every photo got a round of warm applause. The music shifted. A little drum roll played. The screen said, "And now meet the rest of the family." Cassidy caught my eye from the head table and wiggled her fingers at me in a little wave. This was her favorite part of the whole wedding. Not the vows. Not the first dance. This. My mom leaned back in her chair with the satisfied look of a woman who had been waiting all night for the main dish. My stomach dropped. Not from being scared. 'Cause I knew exactly what was coming. Under the table, my phone was already in my hand. Damon's name pulled up. One word typed and ready. Go. I made myself a promise right then. That next slide was harmless. If it was a regular old family photo, a gentle tease, anything decent, I would not send it. I would sit through whatever they threw, go back to my hotel, drive home to Lily in the morning, and let them have their night. I gave them one last real chance to do the right thing. The screen changed. My face. A photo from junior year of high school. Grainy and unflattering, the kind you're in when you're 16 and nobody's thinking much about you. Cross the bottom in big white capital letters. High school dropout. Nervous laughter rippled through the room. A few heads turned toward the back corner. Toward me. Next slide. A broken heart emoji next to my name. Divorced. The laughing got louder. Kind that feeds on itself once it gets going. Next. Cartoon wallet flopped open. Completely empty. Broke. Someone near the front table snorted into their champagne. Next. One chair at a long empty table. One plate. Just one. Alone. Cassidy was laughing from the head table. Genuinely delighted. My mom watched the room with the calm look of a coach seeing their play work out exactly right. And then the last slide loaded. A little cartoon stork. With a big red X stamped right through it. Can't have kids. Those words took up the entire 12-foot screen. The room went quiet. A real, heavy quiet. Kind where people realize this stopped being funny a couple slides ago and nobody knows how to back out of having laughed. Then some more laughter broke through anyway. The uncomfortable kind. People following each other because nobody wanted to be the first one to stop. Cassidy leaned into the mic. Don't feel too bad for her. She's used to being alone. My mom swirled her wine. Little smile. Eyes on me, waiting to see if I'd break. Raymond caught my eye from the head table and lifted his glass just slightly. Just a joke, honey. Lighten up. Margaret Whitfield was not laughing. I watched her set her glass down on the table with a quiet, firm click. Her jaw got tight. She looked at the screen. She looked at Raymond. Then she looked across the entire room and found me in the back corner next to the kitchen door. My face was hot. My hands were shaking. My whole focus had narrowed down to those words on the screen. Can't have kids. My private pain. My private history. My body, put up in giant letters for 250 people to laugh at while the piano played and the gardenias wilted under the lights. And not one single person in that room knew, what my own family clearly didn't care about, was that I had left my 5-year-old daughter at a friend's house 2 hours away so I could come sit in this corner and be called broken on a screen. Lily was at Maya's right now, probably already asleep on the couch with an unfinished bowl of popcorn, completely unaware that her grandma and her aunt had turned her mama's most painful moment into a party decoration. That was the line. They didn't just cross it. They put a spotlight on it and invited 250 people to laugh. I looked down at my phone. Go. I hit send. 3 seconds. The slideshow froze. Screen went black. Cassidy frowned at the head table. Is there a tech problem? Can somebody fix that? She waved toward the back of the room. Behind the AV booth, Damon pulled out Cassidy's thumb drive and plugged in mine. Teddy hands. He told me later he'd run communication systems in the field under real pressure. Swapping a thumb drive at a country club was nothing. 3 seconds. The screen came back on. White text on a dark background. The real Kara Sutton. The room stopped. Every single conversation stopped at exactly the same moment. That kind of silence that doesn't ease in, it just hits all at once. Raymond shot up from the head table. Shut that off. Right now. He looked toward the back. Damon didn't move. The remote had been locked. The only way to cut the feed was a power cable in a utility closet, which Damon had locked from the inside 20 minutes before the reception started. For the first time in 20 years, Raymond Sutton could not make me disappear. First slide filled the screen. My graduation photo. Me alone in front of the UVA seal, cap and gown, diploma in both hands. Caption: Nobody came to my graduation. I went anyway. A woman at table 4 put her hand over her mouth. Next. My architecture license on my office wall. Licensed architect, Commonwealth of Virginia. Murmurs started spreading through the room like a slow wave. Next. Me on a job site in Charlottesville. Hard hat, blueprints in hand, a courthouse being rebuilt behind me. Senior architect, Mercer Caldwell Associates, Charlottesville, Virginia. A man near the front turned around in his chair to look at me. Then the woman next to him. Then the whole table swiveled around. Next. My award plaque. Virginia Emerging Design Professional of the Year. Margaret Whitfield's hand stopped halfway to her glass. Last content slide. White text on black. You called me a dropout. I have a degree. You called me broke. I own my home. You called me a failure. I design buildings that outlast all of us. I stood up from table 22. I didn't go to the stage. I didn't grab a microphone. I just stood up from my corner next to the kitchen door and turned to face the room. Raymond's face had gone a color I'd never seen on him before. Somewhere between furious and scared. The face of a man watching something happen that he cannot stop. She made all that up, he said. Cassidy, turn it off. This is my wedding. My mom sat completely still, wine glass frozen in the air, face drained of everything she'd spent 30 years holding up. The last slide appeared. The measure of a family isn't how they treat the one they're proud of. It's how they treat the one they gave up on. I didn't say a word. The screen said everything. Raymond came at me fast. He stepped out from behind the head table with both hands raised, smile back on his face, the same one he wore at every town hall, every chamber dinner, every handshake with someone he needed something from. Everyone, I'm sorry for the interruption. My older daughter has always had a flair for drama. Small laugh. Nobody laughed with him. He walked straight toward me. People shifted out of his way. His shoes clicked on the hardwood floor. When he got to table 22, he leaned in close and dropped his voice, but not quite far enough. 2 tables right next to us heard every word. "Sit down right now, or you will never see your grandmother again." I looked at him. My dad. 64 years old. A man who built houses for other people and tore his own family apart. "You've been holding Grandma Evelyn over my head my entire adult life," I said, quiet and steady. "That stops tonight. I already called Blue Ridge directly. I'm listed on her emergency contacts now. You don't have that card anymore." His jaw locked. From the head table, a chair scraped back. Blake Whitfield stood up. His face was steady. He looked at Raymond. Then he looked at me. "Hold on. Let her say what she came to say." Cassidy grabbed his arm. "Blake." He pulled free. Gentle but clear. "Something isn't right here, Cassidy. I want to hear this." The whole room tilted. You could feel it shift like a scale that had been going one way and just changed directions. My mom stood up from her chair, voice starting to crack. "Kara, please. You're embarrassing yourself." I looked at her. The woman who flipped catalog pages while my dad packed my bag and threw me out of the house. The woman who handed me a baggy dress and told me to blend into the walls. "No, Mom," I said. "For the first time tonight, I'm really not." I walked away from table 22. "Teddy, no rushing." I walked out into the middle of the room, between all the round tables and the little flickering candles, and I stood where everyone could see me. Flat champagne. Piano music long gone. I didn't drop out of school. My voice came out calm and even, like I was just having a regular conversation. My dad cut off my college fund when I was 18 because I wouldn't sign over land my grandfather left me. I left this house with $63 and one bag. Everything I have I built myself. Raymond opened his mouth. I kept going. My divorce. I married someone who turned out to be controlling and suffocating. I got myself out. That's not failure. That's good judgment. A woman at table 7 pressed her napkin to her face. Her husband put his arm around her shoulders. And that last slide. I looked right at Cassidy. That is a medical fact, not a punchline. And it is also not the whole story because I have a daughter. Her name is Lily. She is 5 years old. Right now she is at a friend's house 2 hours from here because I left her there so I could come sit in the back corner of this room and be called broken on a screen. The room went so still you could hear the flowers. Cassidy's lower lip started trembling. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Mom. I looked at Diane. You helped design those slides. You handed me a dress 2 sizes too big because you wanted me to disappear tonight. Dad. I looked at Raymond. You told me to sit in the corner, stay quiet, and not embarrass you. I let the pause sit. The only embarrassing thing in this room is what you just did to your own daughter. In front of the Whitfields. In front of everyone you've spent 20 years trying to impress. Total silence. A server in the kitchen doorway had stopped dead still, tray in both hands, not moving at all. Then the slow, deliberate sound of a chair being pushed back. Margaret Whitfield stood up. Margaret Whitfield walked across that room like she owned it. In a lot of ways she did. Half the people at those tables owed her foundation a favor or a grant or a seat on a board. She stopped about 3 feet in front of me. Her eyes moved from my face to the screen behind me where senior architect Mercer Caldwell Associates, Charlottesville, Virginia was still glowing. C. Sutton, she said. Not a question. Like she was confirming something she'd already figured out. Yes, ma'am. You're the architect on the Hargrove Restoration Project. Yes, ma'am. She turned around. She took her time. She made sure the whole room was watching before she faced Raymond. Mr. Sutton. Her voice was level and exact. The woman you just humiliated in front of my family is the architect I personally hired to restore the most important historic building in this county. The color went right out of Raymond's face. Fast. I didn't know. You didn't know because you never once bothered to know your own daughter. Murmurs went through the room fast. Someone pulled out a phone. Heads turning everywhere. Cassidy jumped up from the head table. She's lying. She's been jealous of me her whole life and she is ruining my wedding, she grabbed for Blake's hand. He stepped back. You told me she was unstable, Blake said. Still quiet. That kind of quiet that is worse than yelling. You told me she was dramatic and jealous and that your family had tried everything they could for her. She's a licensed architect with a state award, Cassidy. She has a 5-year-old daughter you have never once mentioned to me in 2 years together. Not one time. A pause. And you put "can't have kids" on a screen at our wedding. What was that for? Who was that supposed to help? Diane moved toward Margaret with her best hostess smile still going strong. Margaret, this is a family matter. Things got a little heated. Margaret didn't even look at her. You put it on a 12-foot screen in front of 250 people, Diane. You made it everyone's matter. The whole room exhaled at once. 250 people breathing out together. Raymond tried one more time. Pulled out his smooth business voice, calm, reasonable, friendly like they were at a golf course. Margaret, let's step back. Let's talk about the Riverwalk deal. This doesn't need to. Margaret raised one hand. Just one. The room went still. The Riverwalk deal. She repeated it back to him like something that had gone bad. Raymond, you told us every piece of land in that package was part of Sutton Development. Fully owned. No issues. No questions. Raymond stiffened. It is. I hadn't planned this next part. I want to be clear about that. My slideshow had nothing in it about the land or the business deal. That is not why I came. I came to stand up for myself. That was all. But I heard "fully owned" and my hand went into my jacket pocket. Actually, I said, it's not. Every head in the room turned to me. I pulled out the folded copy of the deed. Pop's land. 3 acres. My name at the top, clear as anything. The east parcel, the land my grandfather left to me, is still in my name. My grandmother gave me a copy of this deed last week. My dad never finished the title transfer. He's been telling his business partners it belongs to Sutton Development for years. It doesn't. Margaret looked at the paper. She looked at Raymond. Raymond's face went somewhere I had never seen it go. Not the controlled anger I grew up with. Just caught. Like a man who built a whole tower on a foundation he never actually owned and the ground just shifted under him. She was supposed to sign it over when she was 16, he said. The last words of a man who has run out of better ones. I was 18 years old, I said. You pressure me to sign. I said no. You threw me out of the house. And you have been telling your business partners that land was yours ever since. Charles Whitfield stood up for the first time all night. He buttoned his jacket. Looked at Raymond. Looked at his wife. She gave him one small nod. Mr. Sutton, Margaret said. We're done here. Raymond's mouth opened. Nothing came out at all. Cassidy tried to flip the whole thing around. She grew up watching our mom go from mean to composed in about 5 seconds flat, and she'd been taking notes her whole life. Her face fell apart all at once, tears, hands on her chest, voice breaking in all the right places. This is my wedding day. She looked at Blake. You're taking her side. On our wedding day. A few people in the room shifted uncomfortably. That's what a move like that is counting on. That one split second where people wonder if maybe the crying woman is actually the real victim here. Then Margaret picked up her phone. Looked at the screen still glowing behind us. Funny, she said flatly. She read the words out loud. Broke. Alone. Can't have kids. She looked at Cassidy. Which part was the joke, sweetheart? The room had made up its mind and it wasn't changing it. Cassidy kept crying. But it wasn't landing anymore. She is ruining my whole night, Cassidy said. I kept my voice even. I didn't make that slideshow. You did. My mom finally broke. She'd held it together for as long as she could. The smile, the posture, the 30-year performance of being the perfect wife and mother and community member. But the Whitfields were leaving. The deal was dead. And people were looking at her family the exact way she had spent her entire adult life making sure they never would. She turned on me. All the polish gone. You think you're better than us? You think those little slides of yours change anything? You had nothing when you walked out that door. You were nobody. That's right, I said. I had nothing. Because you made sure of it. I did what was best for this family. You did what was best for how this family looked. There's always been a difference between those two things. She looked around the room for someone to back her up. Women she'd had lunch with for 15 years. Friends from the country club and the book club. She tried the social smile one more time. Y'all know how family can get? Nobody smiled back. And then a voice came from the back of the room. The older woman. The one with the reading glasses on the little chain and the long navy dress. She was on her feet now, one hand on her table for balance, and her voice was thin but it carried through every single corner of that room. I have known Evelyn Sutton for 53 years, she said. Quiet. A pause. She would be heartbroken by what happened in this room tonight. But not because of Kara. She picked up her purse and walked out. Her heels steady and even on the hardwood floor. Another couple stood. Then a man from table 9. No speeches. No announcements. They just left. My mom sank into the nearest empty chair. She reached for her wine glass but didn't pick it up. She looked every single one of her years right then. Maybe more. The room kept draining out. Nobody was pretending anymore that this was just a little family moment that got out of hand. I stood in the middle of what was left. Half-empty chairs. Dying flowers. Champagne glasses nobody had finished. 20 years of a carefully built image, finally just sitting in pieces on the floor. I didn't come here to ruin your wedding, Cassidy. I didn't need to raise my voice. The room was that quiet. I came because Grandma Evelyn asked me to. Because even after all of this, she still believes this family can be something better than what it's been. Cassidy's head dropped. I don't hate any of you. I looked at Raymond. Diane. But I am done being the joke. I am done having to prove I deserve to exist in my own family. If you want me in your lives, if you ever want to actually know Lily, really know her, it starts with treating me with basic respect. No conditions. No performances. Just basic human decency. If you can't do that, then this is goodbye. I picked up my clutch from table 22. I smoothed my green dress, the one I bought myself. I walked toward the door. Past Raymond. He was staring at the floor. Past Diane. She was looking at the tablecloth. Past Cassidy. She turned her face away. Near the coat check, someone said my name. Ms. Sutton. I stopped. Margaret Whitfield was by the exit, blazer on, car keys already in her hand. She looked at me the way people look at you when something has been settled. Monday morning. My office. 9 o'clock. We have work to finish. Yes, ma'am. She nodded once. And walked out into the October night. Parking lot was about half empty. I sat in my car with the engine off, both hands on the wheel, just staring at the front of the country club. A knock on the window. Damon. Still in the soundstage polo. 2 gas station coffees in his hands. I unlocked the door and he got in. He handed me one without a word. "You okay?" he asked. "No," I said. "But I'm better than I've been in a very long time." We sat quiet for a few minutes. Through the windshield I could see people coming out in small groups. Couples walking fast. Men loosening their ties. Nobody was laughing. My phone buzzed. "Blake, I'm sorry for what happened tonight. Cassidy and I have a lot to work through. I don't know where things go from here. But I want you to know I'm really sorry." Another buzz. "Renata, your grandmother saw everything." Someone's nephew was streaming it live to a family group chat and Miss Evelyn watched it from start to finish. She laughed so hard I had to check on her twice. She said to tell you, "That's my girl. Now go home and hug that baby." I closed my eyes. Grandma Evelyn, 86 years old. In her room at Blue Ridge, in her wheelchair, watching her granddaughter stand up in a room full of people who spent 20 years trying to make her nothing. And laughing about it. Proud. One more buzz. "Margaret Whitfield, I've spoken with my lawyers about the Riverwalk situation. Raymond Sutton will not be building on your property. We are finding a different development partner." I typed back to Margaret, "Thank you." To Renata, "Tell her I love her. Tell her I'm going straight home to hug that baby." To Blake, "I'm sorry too. For all of it. I didn't text Raymond. Or Diane. Or Cassidy. Everything that needed to be said had been said already." Damon started the car. "Hotel," he said. "Yeah. Then home first thing in the morning. Lily will be up by 6 asking about dinosaurs." He smiled. "Go get your girl." He pulled out and the country club got smaller and smaller in the rearview mirror. In the weeks after the wedding, Hargrove did what small towns always do when a well-known family's reputation takes a hit. I heard most of it through Renata, who had a knack for sharing exactly what needed to be shared and nothing more. I also heard from Damon, who had joined the Hargrove Community Facebook group out of sheer preparation and reported back to me like a news correspondent. Diane was quietly removed from the Hargrove Heritage Gala Planning Committee. No announcement, no explanation. Just a polite email from Margaret's assistant thanking her for years of past service. Diane called 4 of the committee members afterward. Not one of them called her back. Raymond lost 2 business partners within 10 days. A commercial real estate developer out of Winchester backed out of a joint deal, saying it was about different directions. A contractor who had worked with Raymond for 17 years sent a polite letter about pursuing other opportunities. Sutton Development didn't collapse. Raymond was too deep in the county for that. But there were cracks now. In a place like Hargrove where your name is your real currency, cracks spread fast. Blake asked Cassidy to go to couples counseling the Monday after the wedding. She called it insulting and refused. By that Friday, Blake had moved into his parents' place across town. They weren't divorced. But they weren't together. Diane's book club, which she had run out of her house every 3rd Wednesday for 12 years, quietly relocated to someone else's living room in November. Nobody called to tell her. It just stopped showing up at her door. I didn't follow any of this as it was happening. I was back in Charlottesville. At my desk. Walking Lily to preschool in the mornings and listening to her explain very seriously the whole walk why Triceratops horns were defensive weapons and not offensive ones if you really think about it, Mom. I had 2 projects on my plate and a kid to raise. That was enough. About a month after the wedding, Raymond called. I almost didn't pick up. I answered on the 4th ring. He didn't start with sorry. He started with an offer. The land. Name your price. Let's just end this thing. It's not for sale. Kara, it is not for sale. Pop-Pop left it to me. Grandma Evelyn made sure I kept it. It stays mine. You are blowing up this family over 3 acres. You blew up this family over 3 acres. 20 years ago. When you chose that land over your own daughter. Long silence. I thought I was doing what was right, he said finally. His voice was quieter. The salesman in him had stepped aside for a moment. So did I. And here we are. A pause. Then softer. I'd like to know Lily someday. If that's something that could ever happen. I sat with that for a second. The words hit differently than I expected. Less like a trick. More like a man who finally looked up and realized he had missed something he was never going to get back. That's not just my decision, I said. Lily is 5 years old. She deserves to know her family, but only the parts of her family that are actually safe for her. I don't know yet if you are. I'm not saying never. I'm saying not now. And if it ever happens, it would be on my terms. Not yours, he breathed. You were always the stubborn one, he said. Learned it somewhere. The line went dead. My hands were steady. My pulse was fine. There was a time when a single call from Raymond Sutton could wreck an entire week for me. Replaying everything he said. Wondering if I was too much. Wondering if I was the problem. That time is over. I went back to my drawings. About 6 weeks after the wedding, Cassidy called on a Sunday morning. I let it ring twice out of habit. Then I picked up. The voice on the other end was not the Cassidy I grew up with. Not the one with the perfect entrance and the 5-carat ring. This voice was flat and tired, like all the air had gone out of her. Blake is barely home. Mom cries every day. Dad won't talk to anyone. Long pause. The slideshow was wrong. I knew it when I was making it. I made it anyway because nobody in this family has ever once told me to stop doing things like that. Because they were doing the same things to me. Yeah. A long exhale. I never really thought about Lily. Like, I knew you had her, but I never made her real in my head. She's your daughter. She was home that night. She's going to grow up someday knowing that her grandma and her aunt made a joke about her mama's personal medical situation at a wedding in front of strangers. Her voice broke. That's really messed up. I know it is. I was quiet. I don't know who I am when I'm not the favorite, she said. And that was the most honest thing my sister had ever said to me out loud in her life. I could have gone in on her. I had 20 years of things I could have said. But that's how our parents talk to people. That is not how I want to be. Then now is a good time to figure that out, I said. Get a therapist. Not one from Mom's circle. Someone who will actually be straight with you. Okay. And Cassidy, if you ever want to really know Lily to be part of her life, that takes time and it takes you showing up. Not just wanting it. Doing it. Okay, she said again. Quieter. Neither of us said I love you. Neither of us said goodbye. We just sat on the phone for a minute, both of us breathing, both of us somewhere new. Then the line went quiet. I looked out my kitchen window at the morning light coming through the trees. No tears. Just tired. But lighter than I'd been in a long time. The following Saturday, I drove to Blue Ridge. And this time I brought Lily. It was the first time I'd brought her. I'd thought about it for months. Lily knew she had a great-grandma who sent her little hand-drawn pictures of animals through Renata, who passed them along quietly under the radar of whoever my dad had watching the mail. Lily had been asking to meet her since she was 4 years old. Renata was at the front desk when we walked in. She looked down at Lily in her yellow jacket and her backpack with the dinosaur patch on it, and she just lit up. Oh my goodness. There she is. Lily with zero hesitation. Hi. Do you have any dinosaurs here? Renata looked at her very seriously. You know what, I think we can track at least one down. Lily approved of this answer immediately. The sunroom was warm and full of October light. Grandma Evelyn was in her wheelchair by the window, her crocheted blanket across her lap, white hair bright in the sun. She saw us come through the door and something happened in her face, not just a smile but something that went much deeper. like a window that had been stuck for a long time finally opening up all the way. Lily walked straight up to her. This kid has never been shy a day in her life. Hi. I'm Lily. I'm 5 years old. I love dinosaurs more than anything. What is your favorite animal? Grandma Evelyn laughed. A big, full, real laugh. Kind that made Renata stick her head in the door to make sure everyone was okay. My favorite animal just might be a giraffe, Grandma Evelyn said. Lily's eyes went huge. I have a stuffed giraffe. His name is Gerald. He sleeps in my bed every single night. And just like that, they were off. I sat back and watched my 86-year-old grandmother and my 5-year-old daughter discover that they liked the same animals and the same colors and that they both agreed clouds shaped like dogs were clearly better than clouds shaped like cars. Nobody knocked on the door. Nobody said time was up. Outside the window, a big old oak tree was spreading its branches wide across the yard. Roots deep and going nowhere. Like the poplar tree on Pop Pop's land. My land. Lily's land someday if she wants it. Some things you cannot sign away with a form and a pen. I know that now. 3 months later. Monday morning. Charlottesville, Virginia. My apartment on the east side of town. Lily is at school. My coffee is actually hot for once. On the wall above my drafting table there's a new framed print, the Hargrove Cotton Exchange building, the way it will look when we're done. Red brick, arched windows, an open courtyard with a stage in the middle. Margaret's trust signed off on the final design last week. Next month I am presenting it to the Hargrove Town Council. Some of those same people who were in that reception hall the night my family put my private life on a screen are going to be sitting in that room. And I am going to stand up and show them what I've been building. What I have always been building. Pop Pop's land stays mine. I've started thinking about it differently lately. A little weekend house. A porch and a big yard where Lily can run and dig in the dirt and catch crawdads in the creek. Place where Grandma Evelyn could sit outside in the sun on a good afternoon. Maybe. Someday. Grandma Evelyn's knee surgery went perfectly clean. No problems at all. She's in physical therapy now, doing her exercises every day and complaining about them with a level of detail and creativity that Renata reports back to me by text like a daily entertainment segment. She video calls Lily 3 times a week, always right at what Lily has officially named Dinosaur Hour, right after dinner without fail. Raymond hasn't called again since that last conversation. Dan sent me a text. 2 words, I'm sorry. I read it. I haven't written back. I'm not ready. I might never be. And that's okay. That is allowed. Cassidy started seeing a therapist in November. Blake moved back home in January on the condition that they keep going together. Renata told me Cassidy came to visit Grandma Evelyn last month, for the first time in over a year. She brought sunflowers. Grandma Evelyn told Renata she seemed different. Quieter. Like something had shifted in her. I don't know yet what that means for the 2 of us. But it is something. Damon and I have a new project, an old Civil War-era schoolhouse out in Augusta County, Virginia. Tight budget, small scope. Kind of work I love most. Kind that actually matters. Most mornings I wake up to the sound of Lily coming down the hall in her dinosaur socks, dragging Gerald the giraffe by one long ear, already mid-sentence about whatever she was dreaming about. We make breakfast together. I drop her at school. I pick her up. We sit on the couch and read her books until she falls asleep. Then I go back to my drafting table. It's not a perfect life. But it is completely mine. I've learned that those 2 things do not have to be the same thing. This morning I stood in front of my mirror. Green blazer. White shirt. Hair pulled back. On my dresser, the invitation to the Hargrove Town Council presentation. My name printed in clean black letters. Cara Sutton, Senior Architect. Not C.E. Sutton. Not a professional shortcut. Not a name I borrowed from anyone. Just my name. I picked it up and ran my thumb over the letters for a second. A few months ago, I sat in the last pew of a church in Hargrove and watched my dad work a room like he owned the whole county. And not long after that, I sat in a back corner next to a kitchen door while my family put my private paint up on a 12-foot screen for strangers to laugh at. And this morning, Lily padded into my room in her pajamas and said, "Mama, where are you going today?" "Going to show some people a building I've been fixing up," I said. She thought about that very seriously for a 5-year-old. Then, "Is it a good building?" "It's going to be great," I said. She nodded like that was all she needed to know. Then she grabbed my hand and walked me to the kitchen, and we stood at the counter together making scrambled eggs while she told me about a dream she had where a brachiosaurus kept trying to walk through a regular-sized door and just could not figure out why it wasn't working. Here's what nobody tells you about building a life over from zero. The building is hard. Cold, and the hunger and the sleeping in your car and the walking across a graduation stage alone with nobody in the stands. All of that is real and all of it is hard. Every single bit of it. But what you build when you build it yourself on your own terms with your own 2 hands, nobody can take it from you. Not with a form. Not with a signature. Not with a 12-foot screen at a country club wedding. I dropped Lily at school. Kissed the top of her head. She ran inside without looking back, which means she is doing great, which means I did something right. Then I got in my car and drove west. Not to the house on Maple Ridge Drive. Not to prove anything to anyone. Not to ask for a seat at anybody's table. To the old Cotton Exchange building on the east side of Hargrove. The one I have been putting back together piece by piece since before any of this happened. Brick by brick. Beam by beam. The same way I rebuilt everything else. They called me nobody. They called me worthless. They called me broken. Some of those things were true at one point in my life. None of them are the whole story. Not even close. You don't need your family's permission to build a life worth having. You just need to stop waiting for it. That is the whole secret. Stop waiting. Stop performing for the audience that already decided what they think of you. Just stop. And build. The Blue Ridge Mountains were orange and gold in the morning light as I took Route 250 west. The sky was wide and clear all the way to the horizon. I am not going home. I am going to work. That is my story. And if you made it all the way to the end, first of all, thank you. That genuinely means everything to me. Before you go, I really want you to do one thing. Hit that subscribe button right now if this story meant something to you. I have more stories coming, real ones, raw ones, and I do not want you to miss a single one. Every subscriber helps this channel grow and helps more people like us find each other. Now drop a comment and tell me 3 things. 1. What city or country are you watching from? 2. What time is it there right now? And 3. Did you press go or would you have walked away? Drop a 1 for go. Drop a 2 for walk away. I read every single comment. Every one. 'Cause the people who make it to the end of a story like this one are exactly the kind of people I want in this community. You don't need a projector and a wedding reception to stand up for yourself. You just need to stop letting the people who already wrote you off be the ones deciding what you are worth. I'll see you in the next one.